Alright, so I was searching through the old paint shed for some Elasticoat or elastomeric paint, um, and found some that I had laying around because I've done quite a bit of elastomeric paint. Now, there's a lot of uh, people who say they can make elastomeric paint look smooth, and I want to go over the first thing I always talk to a customer about if they want elastomeric is, first of all, the most important thing is this conversation right here you have with your customer. You go, look, this is not going to look like paint. This is going to look like a coating. Okay, it does not go on super smooth. If you make it look super smooth, it's not going to be elastomeric, really. This stuff is designed to go on like super heavy, especially this heavy elastomeric. My favorite one is the light elastomeric Weathermaster by Vista, because it does look more like paint. So if I have a gallon in here somewhere, I think I did, but I might have used it on something. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about elastomeric paint. Get out of this hot shed. Got a couple gallons of paint here. No, I'm not a painter. Dun, dun. I hate that junk. That's a piece of shit. Gray coat. I never use that rig. Every once in a while. But anyway, we're going to talk about elastomeric paint real quick. What do you tell your customers? First of all, you tell them it's a coating. It's not paint. It does not look quite like paint. It never looks super smooth. Because then when it does have blemishes, there's no issue. At the end of the job, I'm going, hey man, how come it looks like a globby right here? Because sometimes it's just going to do that when your tip clogs or all that stuff when you're spraying it. Now, typically, if you use Weathermaster, which is Vista's paint, you actually can Vista's light elastomeric, and some of the other companies have it. Have a light elastomeric. I think John Edwards has one as well, but I'm not familiar with their product. Is you can use a 27 thousandths tip with that product. Now, with the other ones, you should be using a 35 if you're spraying. Now, I don't know about you, but when you're spraying with a 35, man, it's going on there pretty thick. So a lot of guys say, well, I can roll it. And, well, to roll it, you're going to have to thin it with water. And it doesn't roll like regular paint does. It doesn't roll like super smooth. It leaves a heavy nap. It leaves, if you're doing it, unless you add so much water to it. Now, then what happens is you have to put multiple coats on, usually at least 3 coats. Because once you water it down, it's going to go on really, really thin, and the product is designed to go on really, really thick. So you're talking about 10 mils, thickness, and if it's not 10 mils thickness, then 10 to 12. If it's not 10 mils thickness, then you're not really doing what the product's designed to do, which is bridge the cracks. So when it goes on 10 mils thickness, it's just like putting on 10 coats of paint. It looks really thick, okay, and it just doesn't look real smooth. So be sure your customer understands that, and that's what they want, and that's what they're accepting before you start the job. So, but anyway, we'll talk about real quick about preparation and how to put it on. Okay, most of them require primer underneath. And if you don't prime it, some of them will allow you to use a flat paint as a primer, but they require primer because if it's improperly bonded, water gets behind it for any reason, or it doesn't, it will start to bubble and release it doesn't have a really good adhesion rate. So Vista's product has a pretty good adhesion rate. That's why I like it. All their products, notice I have just a couple Vista cans in here. If you're in SoCal, you're not using Vista paint, shame on you. I've used tons of Don Edwards. See, I got those two. Thousands of gallons of Don Edwards, and the products are okay, and but their service is not as good as Vista, And I have Sherwin-Williams down there. Sherwin-Williams, garbage. Sorry, It sucks. So anyway, I've never used a good, well, there's a couple good ones they have, certain ones they have a couple good, some of their paints are, but they're way overpriced. And, I've negotiated with salespeople and whatever, and they just don't seem to be very savvy when it comes to negotiating price or having the product they need for the job. So anyway, more about elastomeric. If you should always prime your surfaces, and then I use this stuff here. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Knife grade, smooth. So for your cracks, if you're doing a smooth building, which I usually don't like to do a heavy textured building because it's going to fill it in a lot. And again, be sure the customer knows that it is going to take a stucco to like almost a smooth stucco, really smooth, and it's going to fill it in, and it's not going to look the same. So one of the things, you get one of these knife patch for your smooth walls. You can use regular stucco patch, but you have to prime it. Make sure it's primed before you put it on, before you put the finish on. And what other thing I was going to say is, I was thinking of is when you're, let me just think about it for a second. Yeah, when you spray it, now you're going to change your whole spray technique. First of all, you need, I don't use a gray coat rig for it. I won't use a clutch rig like this rig right here. Even though this stuff will spray through here, I've actually blown one of these things completely up, blown the clutches out of it and everything. A 7,000 gray coat. So that's when I stopped using gray coat. I was like, fuck you guys. You guys don't make a good machine. But we use the hydraulic powered unit. So now I use a Titan Speedflow. I highly recommend that pump. Or if you have a Graco hydraulic powered pump, they work well too. Take all the filters out of all your lines. Take all the filters out of your spray gun. Take all the filters out of your spray tip. Okay, you're going to be running filterless with this stuff. If you have any filters, they will plug up so fast, it's not even funny. Now, this is the only time I'm going to tell you to use a reversa tip, because it's the only thing you have to combat against plugging tips. I sometimes still use a flat tip, but I'll use a 27 thousandths for light elastomeric and a 35 thousandths for heavy. Now the heavy, when you put it on with 35, it is going to go on splattery, heavy, thick. It's not going to look smooth. That's why I tell the customer. But it's going to be applied properly. If you put it on in multiple coats, remember I just said about the bonding of the elastomeric, it doesn't bond very well. It's not a real the product has more elasticity than it has bonding. So what you end up with is if you put multiple coats on, now you've got a coat on a dried coat, and is it going to properly adhere to the other coat? And is it going to properly adhere to the other coat when you put on 3 coats of regular? So people go, oh, you got to put 2 coats on? No, you got to put on like 3, okay? Because it has to be 12 mils thick, 10 to 12 mils thick on a full heavy elastomeric. And when you put it on, if you put it on 2 coats and you just barely thin it a little bit, material, if you thin your material and you roll it, it's going to go almost twice as far. So think about that for a second. If you just thin it, like I say you have a bedroom and you go, man, I don't know if I'm going to have enough paint. So you thin it down a little bit, and it's going to go, you go, wow, man, I went like a room and a half when I normally go with a room. So it makes that much difference. So now that's 3, basically, to get the same mil thickness, you're going to have to go 3 coats. So that's what you have to be thinking about, is mil thickness. Okay, so when you put on 3 coats of it by hand, rolling, and you go, wow, that's like, a lot of work, and it doesn't look really smooth, and it doesn't, when you roll it, it's not going to have a real smooth nap, it doesn't lay down real smooth or anything. So when you spray it, you end up with all your mils on at once. So usually what I'll do is I'll cover everything at least 10 feet out from the building, okay? 6 feet. If you use 6-foot film, You cover everything out 6 feet, and you're going to have to be a little bit careful with your gun around corners and stuff like that, because you're going to be blowing off a little bit. Because if you just go straight and then you can do that thing where I turn and go down, okay, and then shoot the edges. But when you do that shoot the edges thing, it's going to fatty up really bad on the edges. So those are things you have to use a shield and really play around with to keep it from getting those really, as soon as you pull that trigger, man, it's like pow, it just goes on there just super thick. Okay. And that's the stuff, like I said, you got to make the customer aware of before you start. And when you sell it right, it works okay. Now, I don't usually sell it. I usually try and talk people out of it. I tell them, look, this is going to cost this much money, and it's going to, what I tell them is I go, look, it's going to cost, let's say, they're doing it on a house, and they say, well, my paint's failing a little bit premature. I'm only getting 5 or 6 years out of a paint job, and it's because there's cracks, and I want you to caulk them all, make them look good, and you can caulk them, and I can caulk cracks and make them look, you don't see them. Some guys, they caulk them and they see you can see every line. That drives me nuts. Okay, so I'll go, yeah, I can caulk all the cracks up and fix it up, and do it every 5 years, and it's going to crack again eventually. But you use elastomeric. I've heard about this elastomeric, and it might look bad. Well, I tell them, look, it's going to look like a coating. It's not going to look like paint. It doesn't look smooth. It looks like, heavy, almost a bad paint job. And they go, oh, I didn't know it was going to look like that. And I go, well, and I said, well, it's going to cost you, instead of $3,000 to paint your house, it's going to cost you $9,000. And they go, oh, wow, that much more? Yeah, And then usually they just talk themselves out of it. So that's usually the way that I sell it. And then and then I'll try and make it look a little bit better than what I tell them. Because if you do make a mistake, you will, and you're going to have stuff, because there's no way you can make that stuff look perfect if you're spraying it like that. The guys that do it, that I know, they roll it and they only put on 2 coats, and then to me that's just, it's not doing its job. You're not putting it on heavy enough. 2 coats rolling, when it's thinned down with water, no, it's not on 10 mils thick. It's not. Get a mil gauge out, check it. You're gonna find out, oh wow, it's only 6 mils. Yep, need 1 more coat. Sorry. And so, because when you thin the product down, it goes 1.5 times as far just by going like 10% water. That's what it does. That's how paint works. You're putting on thinner, and it just goes a lot further. So anyway, those are a couple pointers on it. The thing is, if you're spraying the light elastomeric, let's talk about light elastomeric real quick, because that's more of what I will sell sometimes. And I have like a house in Palm Springs that I did light elastomeric on. And I've gone back and done it a few times, and I'm actually going to do some more of it. The tennis courts are starting to look kind of bad. It's a smooth finish, smooth stucco, and it's Adobe looking type building, if you know what that is. So that building, I'll use a 27 thousandths tip. Again, I'll cover only about 4 feet out. With a 27, you can control it pretty well if you're a pretty good spray man. I use a 6 or 8 27, and I'll spray with that. And yeah, it's tricky, but I'll use that and on a smooth elastomeric, and then it doesn't need to be on, I think, quite 10 mils. It has to go, I think, to, I don't know, don't quote me offhand, but I think I'd have to look at the can again because I don't remember. I don't, memorize these specs. I read the labels every time. That's what you should be doing. Okay, and then I look at the label, and I believe it's about 6 mils, but don't quote me on that. So you can put on a nice 6 mil coating and make it look pretty good with a 27. So, and you could probably get away with that with the heavy if you thinned it a little bit. Like if you just want to thin it just a little bit and put it make the heavy look kind of like a light and make it work, you could probably use a 27 and get a decent looking finish. Like if you've already sold your elastomeric job and you're like going, oh shit, I listen to this guy and oh my god, I'm screwed. Yeah, try and just thin it a little bit and use a 27, but you're not going to have the real coating on there. You're going to have what you give them. Now, I've used this stuff to touch up and stuff like that, and it actually works okay as far as that goes. But you should be charging a little more than double of what you do for painting, because you gotta have to cover everything. So that's more work. You have to do like the Idaho guys do, cover everything, because they spray with spray balls on everything. You have to cover everything, and you're gonna have to. Your paint's going to be a lot more money. It's just going to be more than twice as much money, because you got to prime everything, and then you have to do your coat of paint, your coat of elastomeric. And if you use the 35, it's going to be on there heavy, man. And so I've seen some of the guys spray it and then back roll it, and I'm like, yeah, we can do that with a light elastomeric, but man, with the heavy stuff, it just looks like Glob City. It just goes on there like super heavy, and it looks, there's streaking globs going down the wall with a roller if you put it on the proper way, and it just doesn't go on smooth. So keep that in mind. Rolling it doesn't help. It usually just looks really ugly. So I think the best way to me is just spraying it on nice and heavy, and then trying to get it as even as you can. But like I said, every once in a while you get a tip plug or something like that, and it just goes splat. And there's a big old mark on the wall. And that's just part of the deal. So if the customer knows that, then you're okay. But if you use it, I would stick to a light elastomeric, use a 27 thousandths tip. Then I might switch to a reversa, because you're going to plug up, take all your filters out of everything, and go for it. Paint some shit, make it look good. All right. Anyway, bridging cracks with it. I was going to say that too. I forgot. Bridging cracks on a light elastomeric. Does it last and does it work? Not really. It does for a while. But usually what happens is the crack comes back. It just doesn't crack all the way through, but you'll see the line where it is. So what the hell difference does it make? You filled it in. The building still moves, okay? And there's a little freaking line still there, I don't know. It's, to me, if you can get away from not using it, don't use it. If you're going to use it, then use it, I guess, Another good thing is, if you want to use something that's cool, is this stuff here. It's acrylic stucco. It can be sprayed on, but again, a lot of guys sell this as text coat. Well, I'll have another video on that. In fact, I'll make one right after this. All right, talk to you in the next video.